Well, here I am in my leaf overflow area. This video is going to focus on the leaves that I've gotten collected this year and had delivered this year, and my composting, but I'll also go into just my general plans for next year and the future beyond that maybe, and just talk about the things that I got done this year. So starting here, just because this is an area that I'm not going to return to in the video, but this is my leaf overflow area. It's about 10 trailer loads of leaves. Yeah, I put a sign by the road asking for leaves and wood chips, and a couple landscape workers thought that was a good idea, and we're in the area collecting leaves. And yeah, so this is about half of what I received this year from 2 different landscape workers. It's about 10 trailer loads here. This is all the stuff that I don't actually even necessarily have an immediate use for, but it's stuff that I'll get to work on chopping up next year probably, or I'll throw it onto a tarp and drag it to different areas for sheet mulching. I'm not really even sure what I'm going to do with it, but this is about half of my leaf stockpile for the year. Just kind of showing it off. I'm really happy to have it, even though I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with it yet. Also, I'll mention that this is an area of the property where I tried to grow some pumpkins and melons in the summer. Didn't really go so well. What I did was I just did some sheet mulching. You can kind of see it here, although you can't really see it very well. It's been covered up by these leaves, and I don't know. But I put down compost, piece of cardboard, in which I cut some little sections out, just like 1-inch squares out to put the seeds in, and then I put compost on top of that, and then wood chips on top of that. Most of them sprouted, but the soil over here is not very good. Let me step back a little bit. Back here, before I lived here, there was a trailer back there, and so this right here was their driveway. So the soil over here just isn't very good. It's very compacted, and there's gravel in it, and I think that's why nothing really grew over here. Plus, it was a pain in the butt to water all that stuff, so I probably neglected it. Anyway, yeah, this section here, not really worried about. That's why it was the leaf overflow. First of all, just having the leaves there will help the soil while I'm not doing anything with it, and potentially be in a good spot for me to use when I do something with it in the future. But it just wasn't in use, so it was a good spot to put the leaves without going way down into the back sections of the property. There's a catalpa tree that I transplanted here. It just randomly grew, actually, just next to the driveway, between the driveway and the house, like right there. And so we put it over here. This right here is the strawberry garden. Got some perennial kale just around the edge. You can see one of them that I transplanted from some other plants. There's rhubarb in there, strawberries, of course. What else? Onions and garlic. I planted a couple tomatoes there in the summer. They did pretty well. There's some comfrey that the deer have enjoyed eating. Although actually the one that's right up here is the one that did best. I'm hoping I can cut that one up and split it in the spring. Because I paid $5 per root cutting of comfrey, and I don't really want to spend that much money on the amount of comfrey that I end up wanting, which I want quite a bit. Here's a brush pile. I'm trying to encourage rabbits. There have been 1 or 2 around this year, after not seeing them at all for the previous 5 years. But there are 1 or 2 here, and I figure that's a good sign for just the health of my property. It just means that it's able to support more life than before. And I figure that's a good thing, even if it ends up being a bad thing for, you know, my kitchen gardens. They eat lettuce and, you know, eat my crops and whatever. I figure overall they're a net positive to the place. So here's the other half of the leaves I've had dropped off this year. I've gotten through about half of it as far as shredding goes. There's this pile right here, pretty enormous, maybe 10 to 12 feet wide by a little over 4 feet high, I think. Yeah, I just laid leaf bags along the edge here, along the edge of the circle here, and just mowed them twice into the middle. Mowing them twice seems to be the key to get them into this nice consistency. I think this is just about perfect for composting, and I think this pile is about half of what I'll use for composting kitchen scraps and just whatever other greens I have next year, unless I go searching for more greens. But I don't know. Seems like plenty of compost for what I'm going to do next year. So yeah, I don't know. I've gotten through about half of these leaves. Still have quite a bit left to get through, but you know, there's snow on the ground and I'm just sick of mowing leaves. So just put it off till next year. They're not going anywhere. But yeah, this wider area, I'm planning on it being my chicken area. I'll fence it in, and it'll be the chicken and compost area. You know, I'll get kitchen scraps, I'll dump them on top of the compost pile, let the chickens have fun with them, eat what they want, and then the rest I'll mix into the compost, and I'm sure there'll be some chicken manure to mix into it as well. This is the rest of what I've mowed. It's about the same height as the other pile, but significantly wider. Yeah, when I started, I was mowing in a circle over there with a tarp in the middle, and mowing the leaves onto the tarp and then dragging them all the way over here. It actually made sense at first, just because, I mean, this whole area was full of leaves, so I really had little room to work. Actually, that's right, I made the circle right on top of the driveway here because this was all covered with piles of leaves. I really hadn't thought it through, but I just suddenly had these landscape workers dropping off huge trailerfuls of leaves, and I wanted the leaves, but I just had to take them immediately without, you know, giving the whole process a lot of thought. So it worked out okay. Yeah, these I will, leave as long as I can. Actually, I'll probably leave this alone and compost this pile of leaves first, and then get to work on mowing some more of these for my next compost pile, and just let this sit and turn into leaf mold, and then go from there. Either use it as is or compost the leaf mold. That's my theory. I don't know, it seems like that's a good way to do it. Let the fungus start getting to work on the leaves and breaking down the lignins, and is that what it is? I don't know. The lignins and stuff, the harder stuff, and then compost it, and I think I'm going to be happy with the results. So, I don't know. That's all I have to say about this section, I guess. So yeah, lots of leaves. I'm swimming in leaves, and very happy about it. This right here, while I'm over here, might as well talk about this. It's not really compost related, but that's okay. I planted a couple plum trees here from Oikos Tree Crops. There's one of them. Little ones. There's the other one. So yeah, in 5-10 years, it's going to look really nice to have a couple plum trees on the edge of the road here. pretty happy about that. I planted them really late, so it's not guaranteed that they'll survive the winter, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. This fall I spent so much time mowing leaves and dealing with leaves and composting and stuff, and I just had so little to show for it. And then Oikos was having a sale, and I just kind of impulsively bought some things that I thought I could still plant, since it's so far been so mild. Just for my own sense of meaning in this fall season, I just felt like I needed to get something out of it other than compost. I mean, I like composting and all, but it's not especially rewarding in that kind of way. But when you can say, yes, I planted some plum trees and some other things, you can say, okay, I really got something done this year. And so I just needed that for my, I don't know, sake of feeling like I did something this year. This fall. I cleared some of the grass around this oak tree and that, that one right there, and just put some seeds in there from my father-in-law's property, some just various native plants and stuff, ironweed and bergamot. I don't know, I'm not going to go through the whole list, but looking forward to how that goes next year. Asparagus bed right there, just like I have asparagus here too, planted this year. It looked good this year. I'm excited to harvest it a little bit next year. This right here is a huge new garden that I've sheet mulched. I had a compost pile right here that I spread out into this wide area. It was a fairly big one. And then another compost I worked on fairly recently here that I spread out in this area, actually before it was even finished, completely finished composting, just because I had huge piles of leaves along that road there, and I just needed to get the leaves down before I had time to wait for that compost pile to be done. So yep, this garden has a fairly thin layer of compost on top of the grass, and then a very thick layer of leaves on top of that. And then where I had wood chips, I laid them out here. I'd like to get another, probably one more pile, one pile there, one pile there, one pile there, and one pile there, I think should be enough to cover this. I had a pile at the end there that I finally finished spreading out over this area. But you know, the leaves are so thick, if I don't get wood chips this winter, it shouldn't matter. I think these leaves are more than enough to smother this grass. And any grass that does come through will be no big deal. Did very similar sheet mulching plan over this garden, though this garden was, a garden that I grew stuff in this past year, and it did well. But yeah, one of the things I learned was just that there wasn't enough mulch over top of it, so a lot of weeds grew through, mostly grass. Grass was the biggest problem. I had a lot of lamb's quarters growing in there too, but I don't know, didn't have a problem with that. Oh yeah, you can see some growing through the rocky mulch closer to the house. I'm gonna need to do something about that. I would like to keep stuff away from the house right there, but whatever. Clearly I haven't finished spreading the wood chips out over here. Just, I don't know, I've had so much going on this fall, I just didn't get to it. I figured the wood chips would keep at least a little bit of heat, and that's something I could work on in the winter until it freezes. So yeah, this garden did pretty well. In the back section, the soil was a bit depleted, just because before I put this garden in, let's see, when did I put it in? I put it in last year and pretty much just grew zucchini in it. Before that, just the soil here near the house was terrible. It was super sandy and just no organic matter in it at all. So I got some horse manure that I put down on it, and some mulch, but it just wasn't enough. So I really just kind of went through and did a complete sheet mulching job on this garden, just to get rid of the rest of the grass and the weeds. And this garden was pretty much perfect. It just, other than that, it needed more mulch. It actually spent a lot of the year with a really good living mulch. It was covered in clover, and the clover did just an awesome job of keeping the weeds down. But then I got it in my head that I needed to cut the clover down to release nitrogen to the plants, and it just opened the floodgates on weeds. There was all sorts of crabgrass and other grass, and just, I don't know, it was a mess. So I have a good thick 8-inch to 12-inch layer of wood chips on that, and I'm going to be happy with that. Another thing I should mention about this garden is that you can kind of see it here, like this spot where it's melted a little bit. That's melted because we keep a pitcher in our kitchen sink, in which we put all of, well, we call it the yucky water, but it's just like anytime you're, rinsing, you make a pot of spaghetti, and after we let our dog lick it, I mean, there's still some traces of stuff there, so you kind of let it soak for a little while, and then if it's a small quantity, we put it in that pitcher of water, and then I tend to dump it on the compost pile, but I don't really expect my wife to walk all the way to the compost pile to dump it on it, so she just dumps it on top of that kitchen garden, and then eventually it composts and adds nutrients to the soil. So that's something that we do. It's kind of dorky, I guess, but it works for us. This right here is actually my old composting circle, to get back to composting for a minute. It's my old composting circle, so I have this path coming from the main road that I can drive up and pull in here, back in here, drop leaves off. I would put them in a circle, dump them out, kick through the bags looking for garbage, and then just mow them into the circle. I can't talk. Mow them in a circle into the middle, onto a tarp, and then I would drag the tarp over to my composting area and then work that way. It worked pretty well for me, but I'm really excited actually to have a composting / chicken area near the road. I still actually don't know anything about keeping chickens, so that's going to be my research project for the winter, one of my research projects for the winter, and hopefully by the end of next year we can have chickens. I don't know. We're starting to get excited about the idea, and yeah, we'll see. But until then, this leaf mowing area and compost area have served me pretty well. Here's the apple tree. We really enjoyed these apples this year. I dehydrated some of them. I really need to do a better job of that next year, but just ran out of time. We got sick for a while and just spent a long time without much energy. I don't know. Kind of wondering if I'm one of the coronavirus long hauler people who doesn't have many symptoms but just has the low energy. I don't know if that's a thing. But anyway, we enjoyed these apples, and the deer enjoyed the ones that I didn't get to, so that's fine. Here's another plum here. This is one of the larger ones. I think this is a Dunbar's plum, and I think the ones over there are beach plums. It might be reversed though, but I'm pretty sure those are the two types of plums that I ordered and put in. There's one, there's the other. I measured it out, so they'll basically just be right up against this apple tree here and right up against each other. I think it's going to look really nice, and obviously I'm going to be happy to have plums. Planted some other things right in here. Various native plants just to help pollinators. get to the apple tree, and I don't know. Just because I like getting native plants in here. Over here I planted 3 hardy orange trees. Let's see. Here's one peeking out. This is another of my impulse purchases. It's this right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a deer path. I'm blocking off this deer path to my apple tree. These hardy oranges have just really big thorns, and so I'm hoping that this will be part of my living fence. I'm also planning on putting sea buckthorn in here because it's really thorny along the edge here. But I actually ordered some sea buckthorn seeds and was planning on sowing them before winter, but they are stuck in transit right now. I don't know. The postal service is having trouble getting things to people on time. So that's the way it goes, I guess. This is one of the brush piles I'm going to turn into charcoal this year to add to the compost. There's another one just beyond the apple tree. They've been drying for about a year. Figure that's what you do. You let this stuff dry for a year, and then you burn it into charcoal, and then I'll put it into my compost piles. This right here is what I have left over from last year's compost. Chopped up leaves, grass clippings, kitchen scraps, some charcoal. Probably not enough charcoal. I would have liked to have gotten more charcoal in there, but that's all I got to. Let's see, what else? Oh yeah, right here I planted some persimmon seeds. I was really just struggling to think about where exactly I wanted the persimmons to grow, so I just eventually decided to just put them in a block here, and then I'll transplant them later when they start growing. Let's see, here's my semi-abandoned Hugelkultur, made when I kind of first heard about the idea and was getting into the idea of permaculture, and didn't really know anything, so just said, hey, I'll make a humongous Hugelkultur, and I don't know, it was kind of dumb, but you know, all these branches in here are rotting at least, and at some point I'll just be able to dig it up and have really good soil in there, but I don't know, it was kind of dorky. That's fine though. Anyway, let's see, what else do I have to talk about? Here's my current compost pile. It got up to maybe 120 degrees, and I just turned it like normal, and fairly recently it was at 100, and I turned it on a day when it was below freezing, and it's been very lethargic since then. Yeah, it was at 100, it dropped down to 40, and then each day it gained 1 degree of temperature until it got up to 47, and then I turned it again a couple days ago, a day or two ago, or 3 ago, and just because the temperatures outside have been above freezing, so I figured, well, might as well give it one last little breath of air before temperatures drop again. And let's see, it is down to about 36, I believe. Yeah, about 36 degrees. So it's actually still dropping. It was at 37 earlier, now it's at 36, but so it goes. I don't know, with time these things all sort themselves out. I think that's it for compost and leaf things, so feel free to stop listening if you're not interested in the rest. Okay, here's a Holley Shrub that I just planted. We bought this when we got our Christmas trees. We actually bought boy, the lighting's not very good. There we go. We bought potted Christmas trees for the first time. They're fairly small, but that's okay. We just have them inside next to each other. And next year I'll plant one of them, and the other one I'll just plant into a bigger pot. And the one that I plant, I'm eventually going to plan to compost. I just saw, ask me for the link if you're interested, but I just saw on the permaculture subreddit something about how you can grow Christmas trees by composting them, and that appeals to me a lot. So that's going to be my plan for our Christmas trees. I'm going to plant that one, and then eventually when it gets big enough I'll cut it down for a Christmas tree, and then just keep it going with the growth it produces. And then one I'm just going to leave in a pot, and we'll just bring it inside as long as we can. And that'll just be our Christmas tree for several years, I'm hoping. Let's see, right here, I moved that, what is that? Forsythia. This Forsythia bush right here. I took a couple shoots and put them right over here. I don't especially want that Forsythia in this spot because I'm planning on this whole area to be like a picnic area. So eventually I'm going to clear that out of there, but I want to get some established before I do that because it's a really nice plant. I put a bunch of stuff in this area because you can see in the house right there, that window, we have a little love seat there, and we sit and look out at the birds, and just look out at the property. And so put some native plants in here. I put some sort of rose plant here. I don't know, I put a bunch of things here. If you're interested in the specifics, ask me about it and I can make a list, but I don't remember off the top of my head. There's what's left of the trellises I used for growing tomatoes this year. They worked well. I mean, I put these down in the spring before I planted anything, and then I planted the tomatoes right next to each leg, and as the tomatoes grew, I tied it to it with twine, and they worked great, actually. What else do I have to say? I suppose, is that everything? Or nearly everything that I've done this year? I suppose it is. So, just gonna walk around a minute and think, but I might be done with this video. Big old brush pile. I think I made it a little bit too large. I think the gaps inside of it are a little bit too big. Hasn't really gotten a lot of use. The birds do like it though, so that's fine. But I think in future ones, just a pile on the ground rather than something built up intentionally is actually a better idea. I'm working on clearing out this mound here. I really just don't want a mound there, but I'm finding all sorts of uses for the soil, so it's all good. I'm using the rocks, like I have them right there as like an entry to what's going to be a keyhole bed right there. It's a good use. They become better and better at making use of things that are just around. It's kind of the benefit of not having much money, is that you figure out ways to just make use of what you have and go and just be happy with that. It's good. Yeah, I planted some things out here. Oh yeah, I think I planted some tall grasses out here. Just as part of a plan to give us some privacy from the road, and more importantly is just the noise protection. I get really sick of hearing the cars drive by all day long. It's very distracting to me. Anyway, I'm also having a lot of the larger oaks anyway, harvested. I'm having 70 some oaks harvested this winter, and just to clear the area out. I mean, it seems, in some sense, it seems like a bad choice to get rid of nice, lovely oak trees, but in another sense, it clears out space for me to grow other things. And I mean, I have the national forest out here, so I'm always going to have tons of oak trees around. Do I really need them to be covering my property? That's my thinking anyway, is that I don't need them to be completely covering my property. I'll just think about them individually and keep the ones that seem like they should be kept, and when I can improve my property by removing them and planting something else, that's what I will do. That seems reasonable to me. I spent the last 5 years thinking about it, so it's not a choice that I've made lightly. But waiting on having them harvested, it has held me back so much. I've done so little of planting trees just because I feel like I can't do that until I get these oaks out of the way, because I don't